Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Damn, welcome everybody to the live stream. I'm your host, guys, Ashton Forbes. Thank you guys for being here on a Friday. Greatly appreciate it. Right off the bat, I want to apologize. The last live stream, some people commented that they felt jebaited because I think they thought I was going to be interviewing Charles Chase or something like that from the thumbnail. So, to make it up to you, I actually have real questions that I asked Charles Chase. He declined the Hard Truths podcast. Of course, I asked him, guys. But he did respond to some questions, and the answers are pretty spicy. So we're going to go over those tonight. Also, a pretty mysterious post was found by Bernard Haish. Bernard Haish, Lockheed Martin engineer. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to be talking about 0-point energy disclosure tonight, everybody. Excuse me. 0-point energy disclosure. Now, before we get into all that, guys, Ashton Forbes' crybaby backstory. I know everybody's been wanting to know about it. When you are a live streamer, I guess you just live your life in the public eye. So, yes, as I mentioned, sorry. We're not even emo in here yet, chat. My mother passed away. And actually it happened a while back. We just found out about it now. So the reason why I'm going to tell this story, I used to tell this story a lot, actually, back in the day, especially when I was in college, but less and less as time has passed. When I was 14 through 16, I used to live with my mom and my brother. And my mom was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and alcoholism. And she was not institutionalized, but they kept her in the psych ward several times, as long as they could keep her. And my aunts would come and take care of us. And eventually, as you can imagine, in a situation like that, your dad ends up getting custody over you. My parents were divorced when I was 10 years old. So my dad got custody over us. And this is how I ended up living in Singapore. So people wonder, why did Ashton live in Singapore? Why was I cagey about answering Danny Jones's question back in November of 2023 when he started asking me about why I was living in Singapore? Because I didn't really want to have to do the whole story about how my mom's bipolar and I haven't talked to her in 20 years. And, I ended up living in Singapore because my dad got custody of us, because it's not really a fun story to tell people, But that's the story of how I ended up living in Singapore. And it was, you can imagine if you're a 16-year-old, you've never lived outside the country, your mom's bipolar and alcoholic, and your dad is living overseas, and all of a sudden you have to leave high school in the United States and go live overseas in a country, and you've never been overseas before. I had no idea what to expect in Singapore. Honestly, it was a pretty cool place. Pretty cool place. So I spoke to my mom when I first moved to Singapore several times, and it was extremely difficult. If you've never dealt with somebody who has mental illness, it's you can't convince them of anything, and they don't really see the world in a logical way. It's just very challenging to talk to them. I remember specifically the time which I knew I wasn't going to be able to live with my mom anymore was when she insisted on driving me to school one day in high school, and I didn't want her to because I could tell something was wrong with her. You know, you get that spider sense, like something's wrong. I don't know if she's drunk or what have you. And I thought we were going to die in the car. She was staring at me while I'm in the passenger seat while she's driving the car on the freeway. And I was sure we were going to die. I just wanted her to look straight ahead at the road. That's all I wanted, right? That's the kind of situation that I was living in. So she passed away. She was basically homeless, as most mentally ill people are, and they can't be institutionalized because we don't have, insane asylums in the United States. And, she died homeless, basically. And for me, this is a hard thing for me because I've always felt like as I was an adult, like, could I take care of her? Could I find her and take care of her? My brother actually did several years ago go and find her. And it turned out pretty much exactly as you would expect. Like, how do you help somebody who's mentally ill, homeless, what have you? There's no fixing them. There's no helping them, right? They don't want to be helped in a lot of situations. So it's just a sad situation all around. The reason why I'm telling this story is, well, it helps you understand my background, helps you understand why I'm the type of person why does nothing affect Ashton Forbes? Because I've been through it all, man. I've already seen it all. And then the other side of it is that some people may say, since we had this other thing about my stepmom recently, I was calling her my mom. People might have thought I was lying or something like that. No, it's possible to have two moms, a stepmom and then a biological mom. So there you guys go. You wanted my crybaby backstory. There you go. Now you got it. Okay. But I'm over it. I mean, end of the day, life is what it is. And I think that I truly believe, especially as we've learned all about 0 point energy, the ether, etc., I think that we will see each other once again. I think all of you and us, we will see each other all again as well. I think that this happens over and over and over and over again, and we keep running into each other, keep playing the same song and dance over and over. So, okay. Whew. Next thing, guys, let's go to the main event here. Let's go to the questions that I asked Charles Chase. I think that's the next coolest thing I want to talk about tonight, guys. And thank you very much, Chaotic Good, and everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys. So anyway, that's what I was dealing with the last few days. I guess to wrap that up, what I'll say is that I was talking to my aunts and stuff like that, and my mom is going to get her ashes spread where the rest of my family is, up in I'm not going to say exactly where, but in a small town in which she grew up, and my uncle and aunts and stuff like that grew up in. So kind of got that figured out at least. Okay. So as I said in the beginning of this live stream, I reached out to Charles Chase. I didn't expect a response. I reached out to most of the people that we talk about on these live streams. I reach out to them. Sometimes I'm pretty snarky. I'm not going to lie, chat. I'm pretty snarky sometimes. But sometimes I'm just, straight up. And I'm usually pretty respectful as well, unless I think that there's somebody who's like, hiding information from us. So I didn't expect a response from Charles Chase. But we ended up getting one. We ended up getting a response from him. And I'm not going to share the full email. If people want to say I'm making up the email or whatever, maybe I'll show it if they dig themselves into a hole, whatever. Why would I lie about this? I don't know. But one of the responses made it seem like he might know about me. He said something about liking my energy, which is a weird thing to say if you're just responding to someone's impression of them from just one email, right? But then again, I did send him an email directly asking if he built the orbs, and he never responded to that. So I'm glad he likes my energy because I like his energy a lot too. I just really wish he was able to tell what he knows about Lockheed Martin's technology, because they definitely are hiding super advanced technology from the world. Now, Charles Chase did decline the interview, which, let's be honest, not a surprise. I'm just going to be real, chat. If I was Charles Chase, if I was a Lockheed Martin engineer that's hiding national security secrets, I would not want to talk to Ashton Forbes either. I would be terrified to talk to me. Simple as that. Because even if you are good at hiding stuff, good interviewers are good at getting information out of you. So respectfully, totally understand that side. But I decided to go ahead and ask him a few questions in the email, and I didn't expect him to respond. So I'm sharing these because I think that he doesn't care about these responses, right? I think these are just like his public opinions about stuff. But I thought this was pretty eye-opening. So here you go. Let's read them out, guys. Number 1, started off with a banger. Do you think the ether is real? First question to Charles Chase. Do you think the ether is real? And guys, this is one of the things where like, this is why he doesn't, these people don't want to do an interview. I mean, because you can imagine, like, even if like I know he can't answer questions about plasma orbs and stuff like that, that's okay. I'll just ask the question in a different way, right? Like, is the ether real? Do you think the ether's real? Well, what is his answer to that? Yes, and I think it has an imprint of previous interactions like a memory. Wow. Holy crap. Just yes? Yes, I think the ether is real. And he goes ahead and he doubles down on it. And he says he thinks it has an imprint of previous interactions. So what he's implying here is that like there might be a way to like figure out those previous interactions and tap into them. Tap into those previous interactions. What's also weird about this is this sounds really similar to John Kramer's, what is it? I always forget, transactional exchange, or is it TI? TI, I think TE. But his theory of quantum mechanics, this is the kind of the same idea that like everything's being recorded all the time. And we can kind of tap into that as long as we know where to look. That's a pretty wild take. Got to say, that's amazing. Huge donation here by Chanel 157. Charles Chase is the GOAT. Yeah, he's flown up my list, guys. And we are going to do a Black Project Engineer tier list. I wanted to do it by today, but as you guys can tell from all the stuff that was going on, didn't have time to do it just yet. Thank you very much for this huge donation, though. Appreciate it. Yeah, Charles Chase was a GOAT. I can't believe we found this guy. Can't believe we found this guy. So first question, ether is real, and it has an imprint of previous interactions. The other thing I love about that response, it's unique. I haven't heard anybody say that. I mean, I'm sure if we look, we'll find people who have said that. But I like people that have their own ideas. Not just repeating what Eric Weinstein told them on some podcast or something, right? A lot of people just repeat what they heard. But when I hear something that's like a fresh take on something, then I'm like, Plus, when I hear it from Charles Chase, basically anything Charles Chase tells me, unless I feel like he's lying to me, is going to be real. It's probably exactly how it really is. I'm pretty sure this guy's more tuned in, more connected to physics than basically anybody on Earth. So the ether is real, and potentially it might be like a DVR system that we can tap into it. We're always breathing the ether all the time. We're walking through it all the time. Good question, Billy No Downside. Second question. There's one question I left off of this list because he kind of dodged the question anyway. I don't think it was relevant. I can go back and take a look. Did the universe begin with a big bang? So again, as you guys can see here, honestly, we're only 2 questions in now, and this is already a better interview than like 90% of the stuff the slop that you see on Joe Rogan, right? Like, is Joe Rogan going to ever ask anybody these questions? No. Why? No physicist asks these questions either. The Big Bang must be real. But I go ahead and say, hey, do you think the Big Bang is real? And what does he say? That idea never felt right to me, but I haven't thought about it much. I don't think we understand scale very well. Wow. Chat, I love this guy. Chat. Charles Chase gets a free end pass. He's allowed to make nukes for the government and cover it up. And they can be little plasma orbs that fly around like little alien spaceships or whatever. Because I love this guy. Because you ask him about the Big Bang. You say, bro, you think the Big Bang's real? And he doesn't waddle around it. He just goes, you know what? It doesn't even feel right to me. I don't even like it. I don't even like the Big Bang. Never felt right to me. And he says, I don't think humans understand scale very well. Humans don't understand scale very well. Humans don't understand scale at all. In fact, the scale comment, that's just like a little Easter egg towards scale invariance. He's basically saying humans don't understand that whatever is very big can be made very small. And he's also saying we don't understand how tiny we are, how insignificant we are in the scale of the universe. So the Big Bang never really made sense to Charles Chase, Lockheed Martin engineer. It doesn't make sense to me either. The reason why we think there must be a Big Bang is because of redshift. What if there's a different explanation for the redshift? What if we live in a medium of energy? Maybe that can help explain the redshift. Something to think about, chat. Truthfully, I don't know, and I don't care what the answer is, whether or not we have a Big Bang. I just want the actual truth. I just want actual disclosure. People wonder, like, we need to start asking people, what the hell? What is disclosure? What does disclosure even mean? I'm watching Paulina Luna crying and fighting with Lou Elizondo, who are now going to refer to as Blue Ball-Elizondo, because he never reveals anything. What are they expecting to be heard in a skiff from a guy like Lou Elizondo? In fact, Tim Burchett is like, oh, the NASA guys, or what, I don't know, or Secretary Wright or whatever, he's about to receive a briefing, the alien briefing. Guys, Chris Wright's going to receive the alien briefing, everybody. And then Tim Burchett, congressman, actual congressman, serious congressman, comes and says, we need to give this briefing to the whole public. What briefing? What do you think they're going to tell Secretary Wright? Are they going to be like, yo, Secretary Wright, there are actually 47 kinds of aliens. The lizard people are the ones that, control the Obamas and the Clintons. Like, what are people... I don't understand what people think. And then let's just say, okay, let's say that there is alien disclosure. Let's say that we're just going to, let's consider the idea for a moment. That they go, okay, they give Chris Wright this briefing. They go, bro, okay, turns out there are aliens. It's like us from the future or whatever, and it's super weird and interdimensional. We know because we see the weird stuff in the sky, and then we built some technology based on it. Okay. Now they go ahead and tell us that. Now what? Now what? This is what I can't figure out. Who cares? So what? Okay, they come out and they tell us all it's future aliens or demons or whatever they're going to say. Then what? Then what? Then we all, sing Kumbaya? Then we all go, oh, guys, you know what? All those problems we were dealing with, let's just ignore everything else we were dealing with. Now we're going to, figure out how to assimilate into the demon race, the aliens, ghost species, interdimensional race. What significance does it actually have on our world? This is what people can't understand. This is what these Congress people can't understand. We can do 50 UFO hearings, and as long as you just keep saying, yeah, aliens are real, you should totally believe us. It's like super big deal. No one gives a shit. That doesn't matter to us. I am one of these normal working class people that you're trying to wake up. And I just don't care. I don't care if it's the thick whites. I don't care if they got big old eyes. I don't care if they're future humans or interdimensional. I don't care if they're ghosts or demons. None of that matters to me. Are they coming through my walls and talking to me right now? Are they doing my job for me? No, they're not doing anything that impacts my life. So what am I supposed to take from this? How do these people want it to impact me? What do they want me to do in response to this information? There's nothing. But what we can do is get the 0.8. Well, the biggest response I hear from this is people say, Ashton, but the aliens are going to have alien physics and alien technologies. And they're going to bring their alien technologies to us and make our world a better place. And my response is, no, they aren't. And we can do that. There's nothing that aliens don't have magical alien physics. They have the same physics we have. If they figured something out, we can figure that out too. Why are we relying on aliens to figure out alien technologies or alien science? How about we just figure it out? How about we don't need aliens at all? If there is magical technology that the aliens have, then that's the story. The story is the magical technology, not that there's squids living on another planet. I can already find, if I want an alien, I'll just go to Australia and go fight a kangaroo. That will literally just be like simulating an alien fight, according to how the people in the UFO community imagine aliens. These people imagine aliens are like cavemen, like the Flintstones, riding around on space rocks. And they're going to come beam down here and like interact with us and shake our hand and like have sex with us and fight us. Like that's how these people think like alien. This is, guys, that's like Disney movie shit. That's not how alien invasions are really going to work. Aliens got hyper advanced technology. They can teleport. They have free energy. They don't need Earth. They don't need any of the resources on this tiny pebble, on this tiny speck. They don't care about us. In fact, they probably left us here. They probably left us here because they hate us. That's a more plausible explanation. So we just went on a little side tangent rant because I can't get over how much I hate woke disclosure. Because this is what woke disclosure, when people say, what, Ashton, what is woke disclosure? Woke disclosure is this never-ending alien disclosure that doesn't lead up to anything. Doesn't lead up to anything at all. Just more questions, no evidence. And then this idea, this fantasy that somehow humanity is going to like wake up and have a spiritual awakening from aliens being real. Like literally, I mean, I swear, some of these people are just living in these like 90s movies about aliens. Like that's their perception about how aliens are going to work. Meanwhile, we're like literally working on like AI, trying to build sentient AIs here. Guys, if we are building sentient AIs, the aliens are going to have super advanced AIs. So the dumbest aliens are going to be like whatever the maximum output you can get from an AI is, right? Like that's what the dumbest aliens are going to have. And we're thinking they're going to like come down and greet us and like try to come make our lives better. They don't care about us. They're probably afraid of us. We're dumb primitives. We're dumb, violent primitives. Actually wild how disconnected people are from like where they need to be thinking about what aliens are and what they're going to be able to do. Plus, just one last thought on this before we go back to the questions is the other thing about aliens that blows me away is like, do people not realize like we can only live on this planet? This is the planet that has the air that we breathe on it, the water that we drink, all the resources we need for our biological bodies to survive. Do you have any idea what the odds would be for aliens to also use the exact same resources to survive? Like if we really did evolve on this planet, then we're basically stuck on this planet, or we have to make a virtual habitat wherever we go. If that's true of aliens too, why would they come here physically? They would never come here physically. They would just send probes here as well. So isn't it weird that we always expect that the aliens are going to come floating down when that doesn't really make any sense at all? If you just think about it, unless they're like exactly like us, there's no way they can live on this planet. Anyway, those are just some things that bothered me ever since like playing like old, Master of Orion video games about aliens and stuff, where it's just like, yeah, then the answer, of course, is terraforming, to some of that, but it doesn't seem like our planet's being terraformed. I don't know. Yeah, and let's just go ahead and put a cork on this thing. The 3-eye atlas thing, trying to pretend like that's aliens, is absolutely just dumb. It's dumb, guys. It's not about science or not science. It's just stupid. There's no reason to believe that it's aliens. Like, it's a space rock. It's not changing directions. It's not floating away. It's not slowing down. It's just a space rock. Like, let's chill out a little bit, right? Like, Avi needs to like step off the gas a little bit, hit the brakes, pump the brakes a minute. My man doesn't even believe that we can make negative energy, and he thinks the aliens are coming here on space rocks. Like, chill out, bro. Chill out. I want to listen to more. I want more Charles Chases, and I want less Avi Loeb telling me space rocks are, aliens flying at me. And also, well, we'll wait. We'll hang on for this rant, but I also want less interdimensional alien talk. The interdimensional alien talk has gone too far, chat. Okay. Next question. Did you know Ben Rich? Okay, so come out with a banger here. I'm going to play this video because it's like basically my favorite video ever. Here you go.
Flyer from the School of Engineering to a lecture by Ben Rich.
Ben Rich was the director of Lockheed's Skunk Works for 16 years. He oversaw a number of USAPs that were secretly managed at the Skunk Works, including, most notably, the development of the F-117 stealth fighter.
Ben shared a slide set of about 40 slides of different things, starting with the U-2 spy plane, going all the way up to the stealth fighter at that time, mentioning that he couldn't talk about the other secret stuff. But when he ended his talk, he had a slide of a black disc zipping off into outer space. And he ended his talk with these words: "We now have the technology to take ET home."
So you have to have vision, and you have to have the guts and the courage to go out past the steps and do something of any value. And we have to go past our grasp.
And we asked him questions about it. What did you mean when you said we have the technology to take ET home? Ben shared three major things that I think are worthy of research by researchers worldwide at this point in time. The first was we've somehow figured out how to do interstellar travel already. It's known. The second point he made was that there was an error in the equations. My suspicion is it's probably Maxwell's equations for electromagnetic theory. The third thing he said was, how does ESP work? And I was really kind of startled because I didn't know what to say. But I blurted out, I don't know, all points in time and space are connected. And he looked me back in the eye and he said, that's how it works.
That's how it works, chat. All points in space and time are connected. Ben Rich died in the 90s. Ben Rich has been dead for 30 years. Ben Rich worked on the F-117 Nighthawk for Lockheed Martin. F-117 Nighthawk for Lockheed Martin. I looked it up. It was one of the first fly-by-wire automated planes that had 3-axis stabilization because its wings, it wasn't even considered to be able to be stable. And so it had to have this auto correction mechanism where the computers are almost just flying the plane for you, basically. It also had boxy shape to protect it from radar as well, to make it invisible from radar. They found that curved or straight edges actually made the plane harder to see on radar, and it simplified the equations as well. Yeah, fly-by-wire systems can be used to remote control an aircraft, and I've basically been researching this ever since I found out about the F-117. And what's crazy about this is this may be the precursor for the orbs. Everybody's been wondering, how are the orbs flying around? What is their navigation system? Their navigation system is an advanced version of the fly-by-wire system that the Lockheed Martin used for the F-117. Boom. Boom. So let's go back to this. What was the answer to the question? Do you know Ben Rich? Because you worked at the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works at the same years that Ben Rich did. Charles Chase. Yes. When I was a young engineer working on the F-117A program as a stealth engineer. Holy shit. Holy shit. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. Pause, chat. Pause. So Charles Chase joins Lockheed Martin Skunk Works in 1986, and the first thing he must have been assigned to was the F-117. because the F-117 had already had prototypes built a few years before that, a couple years before that. And they were building newer, more different versions. Like every F-117 was basically a custom plane that they were building. So Charles Chase must have basically learned from one of the OG goats. Charles Chase must have learned from Ben Rich, from the OGs that were working on this. He must have learned about the physics, learned about the science, learned about the engineering, learned about Tesla, Maxwell, all that stuff. He learned about the ether. And they must have been incorporating those physics into the plane, into the aerodynamics of the plane. And that's how Charles Chase figured it out. So I just think that connection is actually crazy. So he knew Ben Rich. Ben Rich knew that all points in space and time are connected. He's talking about all the physics that we have been pushing here. And now we're seeing his protege, maybe even his mentee for all we know, Charles Chase, 30 years later, and he's got a YouTube channel literally talking to all these Black Project engineers that we've been exposing, promoting, whatever you want to say, advocating for their technology. This is why Charles Chase has got to be like up there in terms of guys that know about national security and, orbs and all this crazy stuff. Like, even if somehow the Air Force is the ones that built the orbs, even if they built the orbs, Lockheed Martin is so connected to, the Air Force that there must have been like the same engineers would have been working on it either way. It's just a matter of like whose umbrella does this particular project fall under. And that's why Charles Chase, no question, he knows about those orbs. He knows what those orbs are. He knows what's going on there. Guy's got all the exact right background, all the exact right experience, worked at Lockheed Martin with Ben Rich. Like, I couldn't be more sure at this point, Like, this is the part where it's like, you don't know for sure, but if we're gambling, this is the part where I say, okay, I just flip it over. If I lose, I lose. You can take my money, right? But I'm confident enough that we're going to win most of the time on these guesses here. Okay, so the Ben Rich question was pretty amazing. And then the last question, what are your thoughts on the idea of teleportation? Are wormholes real? Guys, I couldn't resist. I was like, should I ask him a question? Like, how much do I just kind of like, ask him without asking him, And so I couldn't resist. I had to ask him about teleportation because the question would have been like in a live stream, in an interview. A lot of people think that wormholes and teleportation are science fiction. They don't think it's possible. They don't think it's real. So I was actually assuming that he was going to respond and say, no, wormholes are, consistent. Here's Eric W. Davis, who wrote these papers on it. Because we know he knows Eric W. Davis. They were hanging out at the same conference together. So they must know each other. So what was his response? What do you think about the idea of teleportation? Charles Chase. Question: are there other planes of reality? Okay. That shook me a little bit. Are there other planes of reality? So how do we interpret this non-answer? This is the craziest non-answer because Charles Chase is an extremely intelligent individual. Extremely intelligent. And he's smart enough that they trust him with national security secrets, right? So when I ask him about teleportation, his response is, are there other planes of reality? So if I say teleportation is real, wormholes are real, we know wormholes are real. So the answer to that is yes. And his response is, are there other planes of reality? So the answer is yes. Yes, wormholes are real. And yes, there are other planes of reality. Look, chat, I just went on a rant, or I was about to go on a rant, hating on Paulina Luna and the interdimensional beings thing. Now that Charles Chase has come out and said there might be other planes of reality, it's got me second guessing it. It's got me second guessing it now. Anybody else said it, I would have just said, nah, they're full of shit. Charles Chase saying, are there other planes of reality? Implying that there are. Wow. We might actually be in a Rick and Morty situation, chat. Interdimensional portals that go to different universes. Maybe. Because at the end of the day, what we don't know about the science, about the videos, about the physics is that plane going to another dimension? Are there mini universes, or is there just one universe? If there's just one universe, time is deterministic. Whatever happened always happened. If you go back in time, you're not changing anything. You're just in the loop. In the loop. That always happened. Or can we change things? If we can change things, that would imply that we're going to a different timeline, a different universe. That universe can be the same as this universe with only small differences, but it's still a different universe. And it doesn't even have to be that deep. It doesn't even have to go that far. There could just be other universes like the twin universe theory, where like there's two sides and there's just one universe up here and another universe down here. So the last answer by Charles Chase is probably the one that gave me the most pause. Pretty interesting stuff. And big shout out to him. Guys, check out his APE conference. Check out his content. Here's another little clip of Charles Chase that I made the other day. I don't think I've shown this yet. Where is it? Here it is.
Always get these deadlines and time.
Oops, wrong one. Sorry, guys. Where is it? Charles. I know it's called just like Charles Chase Energy, but for some reason I don't see it. Oh, here it is.
Idea do you think will have the greatest effect on the society today?
What idea?
Okay, this right here. This is another interview. I basically found everything there is that Charles Chase has been in on the internet. It's on YouTube. And I found an interview where he was talking about a lot of the physics and science. And he gets asked in the Q&A session about this. He gets asked, what is the technology that will make the most impact to humanity? Out of all the technologies that he knows about, Lockheed Martin knows about. This is a big question. What do you guys think the answer is? Put your thoughts over here in the comments. What technology do you guys think he's going to say? What is the biggest technology? When we talk about disclosure, what is the biggest thing for disclosure that would change everything? Obviously, Marija-Hoochas, chat. Injection of Marija-Hoochas. If we had free injections of Marija-Hoochas everywhere, it would change society in an instant. That's not the answer in this case, but it's a good guess. It's a good guess. Okay, let's see what he says.
I always I look to energy and generating energy, because that really drives all the things that we're able to do. That's, above that. And so new ways of creating energy, be it a new approach to hot fusion, like Lockheed was working on and other people are working on, be it
Hold up. Wait a minute. What did you just say? New approach to fusion. Just say that one more time.
really drives all the things that we're able to do. That's, above that. And so new ways of creating energy, be it a new approach to hot fusion, like Lockheed was working on and other people are working on, be it harvesting energy from the vacuum, be it renewable energy and ways of storing that energy, I think are really key. And if you have lots of energy, you can do things like carbon sequestration. And so you would be able to afford to do that. And use some of the technologies that exist now if the energy is plentiful and abundant enough.
Energy. 0 point. He literally says 0 point energy. He says the vacuum fluctuations, harvesting quantum vacuum fluctuations. That's 0 point energy. How is this real? Chat, how is this all real? I still struggle with this, guys. I mean, these interviews, a lot of these interviews that we find with Charles Chase, these are years old. These are years old. They predate. Most of these predate the investigation. I sit here and wonder, like, what does this all mean? That's what I struggle with the most. So I did a pretty big podcast that is going to appear in a few weeks or what have you with a special operator. It's not Sean Ryan. It's not Sean Ryan. That's why I was asking about guns I'm not going to do the gun thing on the live stream because I don't think it's appropriate. I want this to be appropriate for children as well. But the big thing that I've been wondering since that interview is, like, why, how do they do all this? How, why, what were the circumstances that led up to it? Who was involved in it? One thing I'll say before that is that the person I spoke to has been talking to Stephen Greer, and Stephen Greer says those videos are real. Says that, or at least the technology in there is what he's talking about. So when you see Stephen Greer promoting those videos, I guess that's the reason. I guess I actually just found out about this, so I didn't know that was real. I asked him in the middle of the interview. So when the interview drops in a couple weeks or whatever it's going to drop, you'll see me asking about, like, hey, and he says, yeah, Stephen Greer looked at these videos and says they're real or what have you. Pretty wild. And I went, wait, really? Like, you talked to him? He's like, yeah, I've been talking to him. I'm like, oh, okay. Wow. So there you go. Now the reason why I say that is here's another clip that I found. Like, this technology being real, it speaks to a lot of what Dr. Stephen Greer said. What Dr. Stephen Greer said is that, and the reason why I call him a doctor is not because he's a PhD, he's actually a literal medical doctor, ED doctor. And I respect ED doctors. I'm not personally, advocating for all of his positions, but I think he's right when it comes to the U.S. government having these technologies, 0-point energy technologies, and then using them in black operations. Now, that's not really a stretch for me because I'm literally watching videos of them doing that. They're literally doing that in these videos. So it's like the MH370 videos are basically like the best possible thing Dr. Stephen Greer could have ever hoped for, because like this alone pretty much just confirms he's right. Like, yep, U.S. government clearly has exotic technology and they use it because that's a civilian airliner. So, I mean, there you go. In fact, I think this is actually too much for Stephen Greer. Because Dr. Greer doesn't want to expose the United States weapons. He doesn't want to expose the weapons. And that's why I think he hasn't more directly reached out to me to talk about those videos. And this is what I said to the special forces person who I spoke with too, is that, and both he and I agree, we want America to have the most advanced technology. Don't you guys? I'm America first. I don't mean in the Nick Fuentes way. I mean in the way where, well, actually maybe in the Nick Fuentes way, just not in the racist way, but in the way where I want us to be, if we have this advanced technology, if we have this ability to make this money, why are we not all rich? Why is our country not like Brunei, where everybody's a rich person? We should be able to make that a reality in our country. But instead, we're just letting a bunch of people rip us off. We're letting a bunch of elite people rip us off, determine the course of our reality and our civilization, when all we would need is access to the technology, access to the truth. Where I draw the line is, okay, you've got technology for national security. Okay. When you're using it on civilians, you're using it on scientists. This plane isn't being targeted because there are terrorists on board the plane. It's not being targeted because there's intelligence operatives or military people on board the plane. The plane's being targeted because there's microchip engineers on the plane. That's where I draw the line, chat. That's where I draw the line, because that might as well just be me on that plane at that point. Based on what I've been exposing, that might as well be me. If you can justify doing a target against some microchip engineers on a civilian airliner, then why the hell can't you target Ashton Forbes, who's talking about nuclear weapons and fusion technologies that they don't want coming out? The lines start to get pretty blurred from my perspective when you look at that. So that's where we draw the line, I think. And that's where I look at this geopolitical aspect of this situation here. And I say, okay, I can see why how and why there are people using these technologies and abusing them. And I can see how human beings, not aliens, human beings with this technology can be extremely corrupt and controlling. In fact, there's a certain percentage of human beings that I feel like they get jollies out of controlling everybody else's decisions. I'm not going to get political about this right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Most of them voted for Kamala Harris, right? They want to make you wear a mask. They want to decide what goes in your body. They want the government to tell you exactly what to do, right? Like there's a significant percentage of that that's happening. Now, this is leading up to something. I'm just looking for it on my timeline real quick. I found something that I really couldn't believe. I actually struggle with this, and where is it? Here it is. This is supposedly a post by Bernard Haish of Lockheed Martin. Bernard Haish of Lockheed Martin. If that name sounds familiar to you, I mean, Lockheed Martin sounds familiar to you, but if Bernard Haish sounds familiar to you, it's because he's the co-author of Garrett Modell's 0-point energy microchip. What? Yes, you heard me right. Bernard Haish of Lockheed Martin is the co-patent owner with Garrett Modell of their 0-point energy microchip. Okay. Now, this is some kind of old post from like maybe the 90s or something like that. I don't know exactly. When I tried to dig this up and figure out like how this exactly links back to Bernard Haish, but I saw multiple sources claiming that Bernard Haish wrote this. Let me just read it to you guys right now. The elite are involved in the black project. The elite involved in the black programs are among the smartest people on the planet, but even so remain deeply puzzled by much of what they've learned. They tend to regard the public with disdain, like undisciplined and unruly children incapable of handling information of extraordinary complexity. While officially supporting democracy, the black program elite in reality espouse a kind of benevolent dictatorship or enlightened oligarchy by those such as themselves who have earned the right to know and make decisions in the best interest of civilization, to which the ordinary person, being lazy and easily distracted, is not motivated or qualified to contribute anyway. The average American cares more about the Super Bowl than about life elsewhere in the universe. The intellectual mentors of those with clout and power are Plato and Machiavelli, not Aristotle and Jefferson, saying that they're monsters. Over the past 50 years, the highest courts have accepted and upheld the precedents of national security over the First and Fourth Amendments. So even if the public wanted to know, that would not constitute a legal need or right to know. The elite are doing their patriotic duty by trying to control the situation within the established rules of national security. Holy crap, Bernard Haish knows. Chat, I was only one sentence into that, and I already knew whoever wrote that knows exactly what's going down. This is some pale blue horse stuff going on right here, right? Like, and it's true. This is exactly it. This is exactly what's going on. They've got super advanced technology. They look at the public and say the public doesn't even want to know. They basically look at the public and say the public doesn't get to vote. You don't get to vote. You don't get a decision in this. We're going to just make the plan and we're going to decide what happens because you're too stupid to decide to vote, to vote. I feel like this is like women's suffrage all over again. Like, what the hell are we talking about here? The public doesn't get to vote. This is our technology. This is our technology. We're the ones paying for it. We're the ones paying for all the research. So to try to pretend like we don't deserve a vote, we don't get a say in this, that is straight up psychopath shit. Sociopathic. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what woke disclosure is doing. And woke disclosure says they're doing this. They outright say it. They outright say it. This is the craziest part to me. They outright say they're doing this, and then we expect them to be working in our best interest. They, of course, are not working in our best interests. Of course they're not. So why is Paulina Luna asking Lou Elizondo, why is she asking Lou Elizondo to go into a skiff when Lou Elizondo is saying this?
Me to choose between national security and disclosure, like real national security, I will always choose national security.
Okay, say it again for Paulina Luna.
If you ask me to choose between national security and disclosure, like real national security, I will always choose national security.
Why is that person that we just heard right there, why is that person being asked to go to a skiff with Paulina Luna? He just said outright, he's not going to tell you. If it comes to national security, he's not going to tell you. Well, guess what, chat? Guess what, Congress? Guess what, Paulina Luna? Guess what, Tim Burchett? It's a national security issue. And it's not about aliens, it's about energy. It's about energy. It's always been about energy. So unless you're ready to have a serious conversation about energy and how we covered up fusion for like 60 years because we decided the world we weren't worthy of free energy, then there's nothing to talk about in the UFO disclosure movement. There's nothing to talk about. So don't even bother having any more hearings. UFO hearings, you make me sick. All you do is you have spooks come on that have already sworn their allegiance to national security, who aren't going to tell you anything. And even if they wanted to, they couldn't because they have NDAs that mean they might get killed if they do. So what are we even talking about here? You're better off just talking to me. If you actually want real disclosure, if you really wanted disclosure, you'd have Ashton Forbes fly in. Trust me, we're not going to have a scheduling error. Scheduling error. Are you kidding me? I will run down the science, the physics. I'll run down the videos with you. I'll tell you which companies that you just send the FBI to and just invade and take their servers. And we will have full disclosure. We will go knock down the doors of Lockheed Martin. We will knock down the doors of Sierra Nevada Corporation. We will take their servers, confiscate their servers and their databases, and we will get full disclosure. 100% guaranteed. When you want to act like an adult and actually do real disclosure, hit me up. Because I guarantee a judge is going to sign off on a search warrant when I go, hey, this is Sierra Nevada Corporation's Gorgon Stare illegally recording an operation against a civilian airliner. And by the way, this is going through their servers, so they're going to have a lot more incriminating shit. Nope. Sorry, guys. We got to go listen to a bunch of spooks tell us that aliens exist. Oh, and by the way, they're interdimensional now. Woo! Guys, are you afraid that the interdimensional aliens are here, everybody? Are you not afraid? Sorry, bro. I got a lot going on right now. The interdimensional aliens it just doesn't spook me like it used to. I don't know what to tell you, right? I guess maybe it was 4 years of a psyop telling me I got to inject drugs into my body and wear masks, otherwise I'm a bad person. Kind of just ruined the spooky alien psyop for me, okay? So I'm not really afraid of the aliens phasing through the reality and coming into my room. It's just not a major concern for me at the moment. But here's the other part about it. This is what I hate about the interdimensional alien crap. It's not that aliens can technically be interdimensional, right? We're talking about teleportation. We're talking about wormholes. We're talking about adding an extra dimension so that we can traverse between any 2 points in space and time. How do we allow this? Through an extra dimension, right? So there is an extra dimension. So obviously I'm not against the idea of there being an extra dimension. So why do I hate the idea of interdimensional aliens? Because we're mystifying it. We're making it more mysterious and spooky. We're going, ooh, there's an extra dimension. Okay, that means the aliens are interdimensional. Bro, if I teleported from here to Mars, you wouldn't say I'm an interdimensional traveler. I mean, you probably would because it's funny as hell, but it wouldn't be accurate. Just because I jumped through a wormhole doesn't make me interdimensional. Right? Like, what am I talking about here? And this is why I agree with Eric Weinstein when he comes at them and says, you need to have an expert in the room. Because if you got people just telling congressmen and women like they're interdimensional beings, you're not helping the situation. You're just making more disinformation and misinformation, and now people are just speculating with all these ideas. Just tell people what's happening. Like if you say, oh, there are sightings, credible witnesses. There are credible witnesses that say they're interdimensional beings. Don't tell me what it is. Tell me what the sighting was. Show me the evidence. If you say a spirit plasma being, let's say, phased through the wall of a submarine, for example, then tell me that. And I will make my decision about if it's an interdimensional being or entity. This is what I hate about it, is that it feels like they're just adding to the circus. They're just adding to the circus and they're going, the interdimensional beings are coming. Everybody get afraid because now they're interdimensional. Like they were either always interdimensional or not. So I hate the interdimensional thing. It just seems like it's the new age little green men, right? Like, oh, it was little green men before. Now it's interdimensional aliens. So at the end of the day, aliens are real, guys. Here you go. Here's your disclosure. Ready? Everybody pay attention. Here's your disclosure. You're hearing it from Ashton Forbes right here. What day is it today? August 15th, nearly 8 p.m. Central Time. Big announcement. Here we go. Aliens are real. Ooh. Chat. I'm holding on to the disclosure. The disclosure is blowing me away right now, chat. My mind, it can't absorb all of this. My whole perspective on the universe now, it's so much bigger than it was a moment ago. Aliens are real. Holy smokes. What a disclosure it was, chat. Wow. That was 30 seconds of just mind-blowing disclosure. But now I'm just remembering I gotta do some work because I'm far behind in work and I had 2 days off today. So unfortunately, the aliens aren't going to come do my job I got to do. So I got to focus on that. Sucks. Oh, by the way, now that we've got that whole alien disclosure out of the way, can we maybe get some of those free energy devices? Lockheed Martin has so many free energy devices that they're just falling out. Like people are just finding out about the free energy devices randomly in academia because they got so many free energy devices. They got ones that are harvesting the temperature variations, ones directly harvesting quantum vacuum fluctuations. Nope, we can't even have one. Can they just tell the truth and tell us that they've solved fusion? Like, could we just get at least fusion? Could we just have one fusion reactor, sir? Please, sir. Just one fusion reactor. One fusion reactor. We could power a few cities. Please, sir. Nope. We can't even have one fusion reactor. Nope. Can't even have that. By the way, the fusion companies that are coming out, they're already all bought up by all the most evil people you could literally possibly think of. I can't even make this up. The fusion companies that are all coming out, they're all backed by the DOE already, so they've already gotten the government's blessing. And they've got Palantir and Bill Gates and George Soros are all the main investors. Good luck, humanity. Good luck. We are cooked. We are straight up cooked. Because as I started to find out, okay, let's start looking into like who's working on this stuff now. Like, where are we at right now? Because that's what everybody asks. Turns out all the most evil people already have their tendrils in literally everything. Literally everything. And they've already got deals with the DOE that they're going to be the fusion person that brings fusion to the world. And it's all going to be a massive scam. In fact, let me point out this post, which I couldn't even believe this. Like, if you believe these Palantir people are your friends, just take a look at this. Here's Secretary Chris Wright. Climate change is real and it deserves real attention, everybody. Climate change is we're gonna all be underwater in the ice age, everyone. Why? Please, everyone, please, bro. Please take climate change serious, bro. It's not like we have the literal solution to climate change that we could have rolled out anytime we wanted over the last 60 years. We had fusion power ready to go, but we have to take climate change real serious. I was told as a little kid that by 2025, there would be no fossil fuels left and LA would be underwater and there would be no ocean cap or no ice caps anymore. Whatever happened to that? But this is the most pathetic crap ever. Not just are these guys just virtue signaling about climate change. Climate change is a challenge, not a catastrophe. But then you got Joe Lonsdale, Palantir douchebag. Well said, bro. Well said. Yes. I couldn't believe this, but I went to their website. And their website, promotes how they're going to fix climate change. Like, that's the main thing they're thinking about for Commonwealth Fusion. Here's Commonwealth Fusion. This is their website, their own press release. Bill Gates, Google, Soros Fund Management. We're committed to the commercialization of fusion to mitigate climate change. The reason why I post this is that I want you guys to think about, this is what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about like, hey, we can get free energy for the world. That's not what they're concerned about. They're literally concerned about virtue signaling. They're concerned about virtue signaling. Holy, this shows how disconnected these people are from the common man. Completely disconnected from the common man. I think about fusion and I don't think about ending climate change, which obviously green energy does. I think about like, oh, we might have free energy, cheap energy for everyone on this whole planet. They're not thinking about that because they're not planning on giving us that. The reason why this doesn't say anything about free energy is because that was never in the plan. Free energy is not in the plan. These people don't get rich. No, look at these people who are all investing in this. They're not investing in this because they want to give you free energy. No, chat. Look, I'm spitting up. I'm laughing so hard. No, chat. No. These people are investing in this because they want to make billions of dollars. They want to make billions of dollars. That's why they're investing in this. Investing in this to solve climate change. Yeah, okay. Great. Gotcha. Okay, so I just wanted to show that because we are definitely going to expose this whole fusion scam. The one thing I do love about this is that now I'm seeing that they just literally hid fusion. People wonder, like, Ashton, it goes deeper than fusion. You're right. Fusion is just a straight up golden bullet. This thing is, or silver bullet, right? This is their weakness, this fusion thing, because people understand the idea of fusion. People understand that how the hell have we not been able to have major breakthroughs for fusion? They understand that. And they also know these people are evil. So this is why fusion is just the perfect thing to attack them on. Obviously, it's deeper than fusion. Obviously, we're talking about free energy microchips. We're talking about control of our populace. We're talking about warp drives. But fusion is the thing that we can just break them on. We can break them on the fusion thing because we know they're covering it up. We know they're covering it up, and we know they're about to like let their buddies become trillionaires, releasing these fusion reactors that are all blessed by the DOE. They're going to be like 20% efficient or whatever bullshit, right? That's how it's going to work. Because once again, those people are out to make money. They're not out to help us. Okay. Whew. Boy, we are on one tonight, chat. Once again, thank you guys in the chat. Everybody here, let's go through a few donations while I get to the next thing. Yes, did you ever see the paper called Field Resonance Propulsion Concept by Alan Holt? Yes, I have. And it has some geometry in it related to magnetic fields. Definitely useful. We were almost going to talk about that tonight. I think we're going to save the Charles Bueller for Monday, though. But Charles Bueller's most recent interview with Tim Ventura was all about field propulsion and the math behind it. So probably going to take a look at that. Fly Ether says they'll use the alien narrative to keep the technology away from us. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. This is exactly what I'm afraid of. Is they're going to use the narrative of aliens to keep the technology hidden. It's not even that I'm against aliens. It's just that I know that they're using it as a psyop. They're using it as an excuse about why we can't have it. Oh, we can't have it because Russia and China are also building, or the aliens have it, or whatever other bullshit. Like, just miss me with all that. Miss me with all that until you want to talk about 0-point energy, till you want to talk about warp drives and black hole super weapons and plasma orbs. Like, I'm not interested in UFO disclosure. And then Brady Stewart, thank you very much for that donation. Apparently, Kramer's idea of advanced and retarded waves coming from Wheeler and Feynman. Yes, one of Feynman's students named Carver Mead wrote a book about it. Not sure if it predates Kramer. Yeah, and that's where I think we're going to be looking at that in a second here as well. No, that's when we actually look at the Charles Bueller, he talks about this as well, is that when you look at Feynman, and this is why we're going to be actually talking about Feynman after this, is when you look at Feynman's diagrams and the interpretation of them, it does look like an exchange with the ether, exchange with the virtual particles. There's this coupling that's happening. And this is how we can pull light from the ether, from the 0-point energy. So Feynman is one of my goats, and that's why I want to talk about Feynman in a little bit here. As Utopians in the Rumble chat says, 0.2% efficient. Yeah, the fusion's going to be so inefficient, it's going to be a straight up joke, 100% guaranteed. But they'll promise us a more efficient one in like 20 years. You know, they're gonna drip it to us for sure. Thank you, Chaotic Good, for these donations. Appreciate you. Reefer Madness, everybody. There you go. Oh, she's up on her coins. That's awesome. Thank you. And then she said, I always wonder why there's so many microchip scientists traveling together at the same time. I always wondered why they had so many microchip scientists. That seems like a duplicate, but yes, the microchip scientists, like, just doesn't make, you know, why have all those microchip scientists on one airplane? Seems like it has to be a target. And then the Machiavellian ladder. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, War Ranch LLC. Thank you very much. One of these days, I'll figure out how to fix these names. They like reverted recently. I'll get those fixed for you guys. Zapparoo, 100% correct. Thank you very much, Zapparoo, on that donation. Liar Azondo. And this is Dino Complizier. Thank you very much for that donation. Yeah, Lou Elizondo is protecting things for national security. Again, I don't mind. I just want people to be honest about the positions. If you're going to be on the side of woke disclosure about protecting this stuff for national security, then stop pretending like you're a hero. Stop pretending like you're a whistleblower. If you are protecting information for national security, you're not a whistleblower. In fact, it's the opposite. Protecting things for national security is not whistleblowing. Whistleblowing was saying, hey, guys, turns out things got a little bit crazy. Turns out we made some plasma orbs that can float around, and we found out how to make them float in a triangle formation, and then things got really crazy, and we started spinning them around, and they started teleporting stuff. That would be disclosure. Because people are going to go, what? People are going to go, bro, what? What did you just say? We got teleporting plasma orbs? And people will realize that's what being a whistleblower is. Being a whistleblower is coming out and actually being brave and going, you know what? This is technically illegal, but the public is going to go, this should not have been a legal thing that we were doing, right? That would be what being a whistleblower is. And Chaotic Good says, replace the word aliens with Wells Fargo. I don't know what that means, but thank you very much. Appreciate that. And then my Japanese cat friend, mystifying things is not helpful to solve issues. Exactly. We need to be demystifying these things, making them easier for people to understand. That's why this movement has got so popular. People wonder, why are people following this nerdy healthcare IT guy talking about physics? He's not a physicist. Because I'm demystifying things. I'm making it easy for normal people to understand so the elites can't take control of them anymore. That's what I'm out here trying to do. And you know what? People enjoy it because people don't like to be controlled. And yes, in fact, I do need to run this back as well. So we are going to run the Carl Sagan clip back as well because that's my next favorite clip. The irony being that I don't think that they were using the clip in the way that they expected. That's okay. And then my cat friend from Japan once again says, it is their wet dream to see humanity or Earth get destroyed. They are evil. They don't care about humanity. They don't care about the Earth. They just pretend. That's the thing I hate the most is the pretending, the virtue signaling. The people that out there and they just pretend to care, but they don't actually do anything to actually better humanity. And they're only serving their own interests, not the interests of humans, or the civilization. That's what I hate the most. And then lastly, Categood says, we hate Russia so much. Is it about to give Melania a Romanian, a Romanov heirloom emerald? What? You're losing me on some of that. But okay, here's the Carl Sagan quote as well. I actually mentioned this on the podcast as well.
Sagan could not have predicted 2021, but he did see it coming. He wrote the following back in 1995, and we quote, "I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media. The 30-second sound bites now down to 10 seconds or less. Lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance."
Wow. I mean, Carl Sagan saw the future. That was 1995. He said that 30 years ago. And he's saying that the technology and power will be in the hands of the few. And that's exactly what's happening. This breakaway civilization of elites knows about this technology. They're planning everything. We can't even comment on issues because we don't even understand the truth. We don't even understand what's really going on. And when I think about that, I think about the Iran situation. One of the things, like, I have a lot of takes that people don't like. For example, jetpacks aren't real. Don't at me, chat. They're not real. But one of the other takes that people didn't like was my take on Iran, that Iran has no chance against us. None at all. None at all. We dunked on them. And people can't understand that until you understand we have magical plasma orbs that can teleport airplanes. Because if you have that level of technology, no one's going to touch you. No one can touch you. Even if you had that technology 10 years ago. And that's what Carl Sagan is saying here, is he's going, people can't even understand the issues because we don't even know what we're capable of anymore. We're being lied to on a level where we don't, like, everything's just bullshit. What we're even arguing about, we're arguing from uninformed positions. He's saying we care more about how things make us feel than whether or not it's true. Isn't that the perfect phrasing? I think about Reddit all the time when I hear that. I go, that's exactly Reddit. Reddit doesn't care about what's true. They care about how it makes you feel. Think about how many people go, that Ashton Forbes guy, I don't care because he's a horrible person. I'm never going to listen to him because he's a horrible person. I just hate him, right? Why? Because they care more about how I make them feel than the truth, right? And then it says the sound bites. Everything now we're in the TikTok age. He basically predicted TikTok. He predicts TikTok. He says no one cares about the news anymore. Now the news is just the lowest common denominator slop. Became TMZ, which became TikTok. So nobody's informed. No one's informed of anything. And then, I think I deleted what. Oh, yeah. And then the last part. Celebration of ignorance. Now, I bet a lot of people would say, oh, celebration of ignorance, those MAGAs and their celebrations of ignorance. But that's not what I think about when I think about celebration of ignorance. When I think about celebration of ignorance, I think I got vaccinated. I got some free French fries because I got vaccinated. Yay. Aren't I a good person? Or I'm going to go post my vaccination card on social media to tell people how good of a person I am. Or I'm going to yell at somebody because they're not wearing a mask. They're not wearing a mask out in public. So I'm going to go ahead and yell at that person. And then I'm going to celebrate my ignorance. I'm going to celebrate it because of how good of a person I am. That's what I think about when I think about celebration of ignorance. People virtue signaling about their ignorance about how good of an idiot they are. Absolutely incredible. Carl Sagan hit the nail directly on the head. In fact, it's so crazy. Anna Paulina Luna, Tim Burchett, Eric Burleson, these congressmen, they want Lou Elizondo to tell them secret information in the skiff. Lou Elizondo got the skiff flu, everybody. He's afraid to go to the skiff. Chat, we are literally looking at skiff videos. Do you want skiff videos? Because we got skiff videos for you. I guarantee these videos came from a skiff. I guarantee you this video came from a skiff. So if you want to watch skiff footage, here you go. The crazy part is you can show people skiff footage and they won't even believe it. They won't even believe it because they've just been lied to. We have no way to discern reality from fiction. We don't understand science, so we can't tell what we're looking at is real or not. When we can no longer discern between reality and fiction, the CIA has won. The disinformation apparatus has won. The breakaway civilization has won. If you're a congressperson and you don't want to look into these videos and you're trying to gaslight me about you want to take people into skiffs, what are you talking about? It literally doesn't get better than this. This is the best footage that you will ever see if you're a congressman. You don't have a security clearance, you're never going to get access to something this good. Never. Not in a million years. In fact, let me repeat that. If you are a congressman, you are never going to see anything this good. They're never going to show you anything that good. That's a black project. That's a black operation being conducted on a civilian airliner. And that's wide area motion imagery. You're telling me you saw Anna Paulina's going, I saw photos. They showed me photos in the skiff. They showed you photos? I've got wide area motion imagery. I got wide area motion imagery, and you can't even believe it's real. Of course, we're not going to show you anything in a skiff. You can't even tell if something's real or not. This is the thing that's the craziest part. That's the biggest thing that Carl Sagan saw coming. Carl Sagan saw us being unable to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And when that happens, we've lost. So the last thing actually, no, we're going to take a look. One more thing before we go to the last thing. The Golden Dome, chat. The Golden Dome. The debunkers were already on me for trying to post, for talking about the Golden Dome in the replies. Was it in the reply down here? Yeah, I think it was. So I saw this Lockheed Martin tweet. Our vision of the Golden Dome for America connects space-based sensors, advanced interceptors, radars, and C2 systems. What are advanced interceptors? Because I'm thinking if those plasma orbs are real, then Lockheed Martin's going to be rolling them out sometime, right? You can't keep them hidden forever. So I wonder if advanced interceptors, I mean, if I was coming up with an explanation of what I would call some plasma orbs, advanced interceptors could be, right? So went ahead and clicked on it. And it's actually about as mysterious as I thought. They actually don't really explain what it's all about. They do say something that, look, Sibbers, chat, Sibbers is coming back. S. Beers, Sentinel of the Night. So basically, we are ahead of the game on the S. Beers front. So it sounds like the Golden Dome is going to incorporate S. Beers into it, chat. It's going to incorporate into it and its successor. So now we know what the next S. Beers is as well. Next Beers is the next generation overhead persistent infrared geo. There you go. There you go. So we got next generation S. Beers. And then it also mentions down here over the horizon radars as well. So this thing is lit, chat. The Golden Dome is lit. I'm all about Golden Dome. I don't care about politics or haters. Golden Dome is awesome, and we probably should have had it like 10 years ago. I mean, we probably already do have it, if we're just being honest with each other. So this thing's got S-Beers involved in it. We've got over-the-horizon radars, and we haven't even got to the next generation interceptors. Here you go. This layer is anchored by advanced systems such as MDA's ground-based missile defense using ground-based interceptors and the future next generation interceptor. What does that mean? So one of the debunkers was in the replies there. Is this it right here? He doesn't really tell us what the next generation interceptor is all about. But there was a picture in here. Where's the picture? I think maybe it was a different article. Hold on. I'll just go back to the original. So then there was this image right here. How weird is this? Look at this. Look at this ground-based interceptor. So ground-based interceptor, it says current. This is their artist rendition of the thing. And you can see there's just one interceptor. The next generation interceptors, they have 3 of them. Why do the next generation interceptors have 3? Why do they have 3 like that? What does that mean? Why would there be 3 things intercepting something? Why wouldn't there just be 1? Like if you're going to intercept something, you would just send 1 thing at it. In fact, that's what it shows. That's what it depicts on the left side. But the right side shows 3 things. So how crazy would it be? How totally insane would it be if they're actually incorporating the plasma orbs into this defense system? I mean, that's literally what I've speculated the orbs are doing. I've actually, back when the drone situation was happening, I said I think they're like defense network orbs, basically. Like defense network orbs that are just floating around and they can intercept a hypersonic missile, right? I mean, when I look at these videos, where are they? That's what I see. You tell me what you see with this. Let's go here. I mean, when I'm watching these orbs intercepting this plane, that's what I imagine it's going to do, right? And plus, if you're just using it to destroy or annihilate the object, you don't care where it goes, then you don't need a 4th orb either. Just zap it to the next dimension. Who cares? Somebody else's problem at that point, right? So how insane would it be if we exposed the next generation interceptors? What if we exposed the next generation interceptors like a decade before they were going to be rolled out? Or maybe even more than a decade. Maybe we accelerated the time frame of them being exposed. But to me, that looks like a next generation interceptor to me. I mean, and yeah, that's what people said. They're mimicking MIRVs. So if you don't know what an MIRV is, it's like as a missile that shoots out into multiple smaller missiles, basically. And that's what it seems like they were showing in that Lockheed Martin image. But why? Why would you have? What would be the point of that? If you're just intercepting a missile, why do you need 3 things around it? Well, maybe you're going to have them spin around it and zap it away. Maybe have them spin around it and zap it to the next dimension. Just a thought. Just a thought. Elon Tusk, chat. We need Elon Tusk. Somehow we got screwed, and we got the Elon Musk that doesn't believe in Tesla and zero-point energy. I guarantee you, like 99% of all the Elon Musks and all the other dimensions, he must all believe in zero-point energy. He probably already had portals and stuff like that. Somehow we get the dumbest Elon Musk that is like just knocking up internet e-girls and thoughts. Like, I just swear, chat. I'm just so disappointed by this reality. I feel like I might have come from a different reality and I got stuck here in the shittiest one. Never really know. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun. Let's do a little science. Oh, we got a few messages. Matt in the pill chat gave me the cookie, 2 cookies. What do you think of the conference, though? What conference, though? I don't know what conference Matt was talking about, but I do love conferences. Thank you very much, Matt in the pill chat. Appreciate you, brother. I'll see if he does a follow-up. Okay, the last thing I want to take a look at tonight is a little bit of Richard Feynman. Now, I personally love Richard Feynman. He was one of the OGs when it comes to nukes, quantum electrodynamics. He won the Nobel Prize in 1965, 1975, 1965, I believe, for quantum electrodynamics with Julian Schwinger. And I like that Richard Feynman explains things in a way that we can understand. This is why I like him. This is why I feel an affinity towards Richard Feynman. because he was the kind of person that he's just going to explain it in logical ways that you can get. Not in a way where it's, oh, it's a bunch of math, put it over your head. Explain it in a way where me as a normal person can understand it. And weirdly, that's what I do. That's what I try to do for you guys. So this is why I love Richard Feynman. A lot of people don't like him, I imagine, because the way he says stuff is probably kind of complicated, because he really tries to make you think about it. He tries to get you to think about it, you know, instead of you just saying, a lot of people just want the answers, you know, they just want the answers. Richard Feynman tries to say, look, you try to understand it. Here's how I'm going to have you help. So here's Richard Feynman. First thing is juggling atoms. We're going to just watch, like, I think 2 parts. We may do more if this goes well. The 2 parts that I want to listen to, though, one is jiggling atoms. And I'm going to tell you why. Jiggling atoms. Why? Because what are we learning from the ether? What does Charles Chase tell us when we think about the idea of the ether? He's telling us that we can vibrate this lattice, right? We can vibrate this lattice, and maybe that's where energy comes from. Maybe that's where electricity comes from. We're interacting with this environment, this ether around us. And if that's the case, then nuclear physics, jiggling atoms, is very important to understand. If we want to understand fusion, we need to understand how particles, how molecules, how atoms are interacting with the ether, with the 0-point energy. So let's have Richard Feynman explain it to us. Okay, here we go. Yeah, oscillating, as someone said in the chat as well. Oh, wait, I just shared the wrong one. So shout out to this Christopher Sykes. There you go. Jiggling atoms. Tell me, Richard Feynman, teach us. Teach us, sir.
Nothing's really as it seems. We're used to get, hot and cold, and all that hot and cold is the speeds that the atoms are jiggling. If they jiggle more, it corresponds to hotter, and colder is jiggling less. So if you have a bunch of atoms, a cup of coffee or something sitting on a table, and the atoms are jiggling a great deal in the coffee, and they bounce against the cup, and the cup then gets shaking, and the atoms in the cup shake, and they bounce against the saucer, and the heat heats the cup and heats everything else. And hot thing spreads its heat into other things by mere contact, because the atoms that are jiggling a lot in the hot thing shake the ones that are jiggling only a little bit in the cold thing, so that the hot heat, we say, goes into the cold thing. It spreads. But what's spreading is just jiggle in irregular motions, which is easy to kind of understand. It brings up another thing that's kind of curious. That I say the things jiggle, and if you're used to balls bouncing, they slow up and stop after a while. But we have to imagine with the atom a perfect elasticity. They never lose any energy. Every time they bounce, they keep on bouncing all the time. They don't lose anything. They're perpetually moving. And that the things that happen when we say something loses energy, if a ball comes down and bounces, it shakes irregularly some of the atoms in the floor. And then when it comes up again, it leaves some of those atoms moving, the jiggling. So as it bounces, it's passing its extra energies, its extra motions, to little patches on the floor each time it bounces, and loses a little each time until it settles down, we say, as if all the motion has stopped. But what's left is the floor is shaking more than it was before, and the atoms in the ball are shaking more than they were before. That the organized motion of all these atoms moving the same way, falling down, and the quiet floor is now transformed into a ball sitting on the ground. But all that motion is still there in a form, or the energy of motion, in the form of the jiggling of the floor, which is a little bit warmer.
So right there, wow. Do you guys understand the significance of what Richard Feynman's saying there? He's saying that when we drop a ball, we think of it logically as that ball is using its energy up when it hits the ground and starts bouncing until it slows down and finally stops. But that's not what's actually happening. That's not what's actually happening. What's happening is we have this ball, and all of a sudden it causes this jiggling to occur in the ground. And the jiggling causes heat. So what is heat? Heat is just jiggling of the atoms. The more and faster they're jiggling, the hotter it is. The less they're jiggling, the slower it is. So what's happening is really there's just an exchange of energy. The atoms in the ball, the movement of the atoms in the ball are being transferred to the floor. But what would this mean then if that's true? That would mean energy is never being lost. Energy is never being lost, which we know actually, right? Matter cannot be created nor destroyed. So energy is never being lost. It's just a system. It's an interactive system of energy transfer. That right there should tell you that free energy is possible. That alone should tell you that free energy is possible. It's just a matter of how do you engineer it, right? We have perpetual motion everywhere. Everything is perpetual motion. Why? Because of conservation laws. Because everything we borrow must be paid back. That's why. That's why perpetual motion is possible. If there was not conservation laws, if perpetual motion was not possible, everything would come to a stop. Everything would come to a stop, and it doesn't. The reason why there's something instead of nothing is because free energy is possible. Think about that. The reason why there's something instead of nothing is because free energy is possible. There you go. You heard it right here from Richard Feynman. And by the way, look at look at that screenshot. This snap. This is the perfect pause right here, chat. There we go. That's the perfect reaction to free energy and being possible. Right there. Boom.
Unbelievable. But anybody who's hammered a great deal on something knows that it's true, that if you pound something and hit it a lot, you can feel the temperature difference. It heats up. It heats up simply because you're jiggling it. This picture of atoms is a beautiful one that you can keep looking at all kinds of things this way. You see a little drop of water, a tiny drop. And the atoms attract each other. They like to be next to each other. They want as many partners as they can get. Now, the guys that are at the surface have only partners on one side here, in the air on the other side, so they're trying to get in. And you can imagine this team of people, these teeming people, all moving very fast, all trying to have as many partners as possible. And the guys at the edge are very unhappy and nervous, and they keep pounding in, trying to get in, and that makes it a tight ball instead of a flat. And that's what, surface tension, the way when you realize, when you see how sometimes a water drop sits like this on a table, then you start to imagine why it sits like that, because everybody's trying to get into the water. And
so I like that. He explains surface tension so well right there. What is surface tension? Okay, so drop a bit of water on the table in front of you. Just a drop of it. Why does it not continue to flatten out? How come it kind of like bubbles up on the edges? Because what Richard Feynman's saying is all those molecules, they're attracting to one another. They're attracting to one another. And when they attract to each other, they pile up, just like zombies in that World War Z movie. When the zombies pile up against the wall and they finally get over the wall. That's exactly what's happening with the water molecules. That's why we have surface tension. So there's some solution there that we can come to, that we can figure out, okay, we know where the surface tension, the force of the surface tension is going to keep everything stuck together instead of it spreading apart. There's an equilibrium depending on how much water, the size, etc.
At the same time, while all this is happening, there are these atoms that are leaving the surface, and the water drop is slowly disappearing. I find myself trying to imagine all kinds of things all the time, and I get a kick out of it, just like a runner gets a kick out of sweating. I get a kick out of thinking about these things. I can't stop. I mean, I could talk forever. If you cooled off the water so the jiggling is less and less, and it jiggles slower and slower, then the atoms get stuck in place. They like to be with their friend. There's a force of attraction, and they get packed together. They're not rolling over each other. They're in a nice pattern, like oranges in a crate, in a nice organized pattern, all just jiggling in place, but not having enough motion to get loose of their own place and to break the structure down. And that's what I'm describing as a solid. It's ice. It has a structure. If you held the atoms at one end in a certain position, all the rest are lined up in a position sticking out, and it's solid at the end. Whereas if you heat that harder, then they begin to get loose and roll all over each other, and that's the liquid. And if you heat that still harder and they bounce harder, then they simply bounce apart from each other, and they're just individual, I say atoms, it's really little groups of atoms, molecules, which come flying and hit. And although they have a tendency to stick, they're moving too fast. Their hands don't grab, so to speak, as they pass, and they fly apart again. And this is the gas we call steam.
Wow. How can you not love this guy? I can sit here listening to this guy talk for hours. I don't know about you guys. I mean, he's just saying, like, okay, so all these water molecules, we have surface tension. They're all trying to cram together. And he says, okay, well, if you freeze it, if you slow those molecules down, slowing them down is equivalent to cooling them down. Then they're going to create a lattice structure. They're going to create a crystalline structure. And what do we call that? We call it ice. We call it ice because the molecules are all stuck in position now. He said we can heat it up too. We can heat it up past water. If we keep heating it up, then those molecules escape and they break free from their buddies. And when they break free from their buddies, what do we call it? We call it a gas. We call it a gas. How amazing is that? So now, even if you didn't even understand physics or chemistry or anything, you can understand that concept. You can understand the concept that if we slow things down, then we can cool them down. But there's another, I think he's going to say it here, but I don't want to forget it at the same time. But what if we just increase the distance? What if I say, okay, I've got my molecule here and it's going in this direction. And what if I say, okay, well, now the distance between here and here is now increased. I stretch this out. If I did that, that would cool down the molecule. Why? Because it wouldn't be moving as much. So this opens the door to us actually manipulating space-time to control temperature. And this is actually very similar to what Charles Chase was saying in one of those interviews we watched a few weeks back, where they were talking about relativistic movement, where you could get cold to flow to hot, cold flowing to hot instead of hot flowing to cold. You could theoretically do that in graphene with electrons moving at high speeds. So here we go. Let's listen to what Richard Feynman says about this.
You can get all kinds of understanding. When I was a kid with this air, which I was always interested in, I've noticed that when I pumped up my tires in a bicycle, you can learn a lot by having a bicycle. I pump up the tires that the pump would get hot. And that also understand, we see, as the pump handle comes down and the atoms are coming up against it and bouncing off and it's moving in, the ones that are coming off have a bigger speed than the ones that are coming in. So that as it comes down, and each time they collide, it speeds them up. And so they're hotter. When you compress the gas, it heats. And when you pull the piston back out, then atoms which are coming fast at the piston feel a receding or sort of a give. It gives, and it comes out with less energy. It's like going up against something which is soft and yielding and go boom, boom, and it loses. So as you pull the piston out and the atoms are hit, they lose their speed and they cool off. And gases are cool when they expand. And the fun of it is that all these things which you see...
Gases cool off when they expand. Wait a minute. Pause, chat. Pause. Do you guys remember a few days ago when we were listening to Helium Fusion CEO explain how direct energy conversion works? He was saying that they could convert the kinetic energy into electrical energy. And what has all this plasma been about? It's been about your plasma getting dense. Well, when we make a plasma dense, what do? We squeeze everything together. We squeeze it together and make it dense. So how do you get the energy back out of it? Let it expand. We can let it expand and then it's going to cool down. We can actually use the expansion and contraction to control the temperature of our plasma ball. In fact, I think this means, and I was having this thought right before the live stream, I think this means we can actually solve and determine how big our plasma orb should be in order to be stable. In order to be stable. We don't want it. We don't want too much pressure inward and we don't want too much expansion outward either. We want it to be in a perfect equilibrium where we have interactions happening in the middle, but nothing escaping on the edges either. That's how I think the plasma orbs are working. Dense plasma focus. You can let your plasma orb oscillate on its size and use the kinetic energy and convert that to electrical energy. That's how I think they're able to also mitigate the temperatures as well. How are they staying cool? How is the plasma orb able to stay cool? Well, if it expands, it's going to cool down. So this is why I say they're just using smart, intelligent use of normal physics. It's an intelligent use of normal physics with the orbs. Electrical engineering.
Notice in the world about it.
Okay, so now the next thing we're going to listen to, we'll probably just do this one for tonight and call it after that, is fire. Fire. What even is fire? What is fire? How do we think about fire? I think about fire where I light a match, I put it next to the wood, and now it's just burning the wood. But, you know, I had a weird thought about fire. I was sitting in front of my parents' fireplace a few months back, and I thought, fire almost seems like a cascade reaction. a runaway reaction, because I don't constantly have to keep lighting the fire. Once you've got the fire going, it'll just keep going. And it'll keep going until it cools down. Almost like you hit a phase transition and then the fire is just good to go on its own. In a lot of ways, this is similar to fusion. Once we get our fusion ignition going, we get essentially infinite energy out of it, as long as we keep pumping in hydrogen or whatever we're using as our fuel source. As long as we keep pumping our fuel source in there, we're going to get net excess output consistently. So maybe there's a connection between simple fire and maybe even stuff like nukes or fusion. So let's listen to what Richard Feynman has to say about this.
Pump heats the gas, or the gas cools when it expands, or the steam evaporates until you cover the cover, and all these things you can understand from these simple pictures. And that's kind of a lot of fun to think about. I don't want to take this stuff seriously. I think we should just have fun imagining it, not worry about. There's no teacher going to ask you questions at the end. Otherwise, it's a horrible subject. The atoms, like each other, they're different degrees. Oxygen, for instance, in the air would like to be next to carbon, and if they get near each other, they snap together. If they're not too close, though, they repel and they go apart, so they don't know that they could snap together. It's just as if you had a ball that was trying to climb a hill and there was a hole it could go into, like a volcano hole, a deep one. It's rolling along, it doesn't go down in the deep hole, because if it starts to climb the hill and then rolls away again. But if you made it go fast enough, it'll fall into the hole. And so if you have something like wood in oxygen, there's carbon in the wood from a tree, and the oxygen comes and hits it, carbon, but not hard enough. It just goes away again. The air is always coming, nothing's happening. If you can get it faster by heating it up somehow, get it started, a few of them come fast, they go over the top, so to speak. They come close enough to the carbon and snap in. And that gives a lot of jiggly motion, which might hit some other atoms, making those go faster so they can climb up and bump against other carbon atoms, and they jiggle and they make others jiggle, and you get a terrible catastrophe, which is one after the other. All these things are going faster and faster and snapping in, and the whole thing is changing. That catastrophe is a fire. It's just a way of looking at it. And these things are happening. They're perpetual. Once it gets started, it keeps on going. The heat makes the other atoms capable of reaching to make more heat to make other atoms, and so on. So this terrible snapping is producing a lot of jiggling. And if I put, with all that activity of the atoms there, and I put a cup of coffee over that mess of wood that's doing this, it's going to get a lot of jiggling. So that's what the heat of the fire is.
Wow. As somebody just said, chain reaction, right? It's saying that oxygen is always bumping up against the wood. So why don't the trees light on fire? How come the trees don't just light on fire outside? Well, we haven't hit the correct temperature. Once you hit a right temperature, now all of a sudden there's enough jiggling that you get an ignition to occur. Once the ignition happens, we call it fire. We call it fire. We say, oh, now we've reached the right temperature. And now the atoms near the fire also heat up, and they get to the point where they get above a certain threshold, and now they burn as well. And what does this cause? This causes a chain reaction. It's a catalytic reaction where the wood, the carbon, is the catalyst causing this reaction to occur. This is actually reminds me a lot of how we think a thermonuclear weapon is going to work. We're going to cause this chain reaction, this cascade runaway, where we're going to have these electrons hitting more electrons and cause this cascade to occur, where energy levels just increase exponentially, potentially. So that's an interesting way to be thinking about fire, because isn't fire just fusion? Fire is fusion then, right? Carbon atoms fusing with oxygen atoms. That's what he's saying right here, is that the oxygen atoms are linking up to they want to stick to the carbon atoms. But they don't do it all the time. They only do it under this certain condition, temperature. And again, temperature, all temperature is vibration. All temperature is we have movement, right? More movement. I love thinking about this way because it opens the door, as somebody mentioned in the chat, to directed energy weapons, to Tesla technology, 0-point weapons and technology. Because when you start to think about it like this, now you can start to see these applications where, like, why can't I beam energy from one location to the next? Does it really have to be a constant path of jiggling, or can I skip to the end point? Can I skip? Okay.
And then, of course, if you see, this is what happens when you start to think. You just go on and on. Wonder how did it get started? Why is it that the wood's been sitting around all this time with the oxygen all this time, and it didn't do this earlier or something? Where did I get this from? Well, it came from a tree.
It came from a tree.
And the substance of a tree is carbon. And where did that come from? That comes from the air.
Chet, I love this guy. I love Richard Feynman. Because he's like, look, okay, I'm just going to explain it to you. He's like, it's the carbon. Where's the carbon coming from? He's about to just literally explain, like, why does a tree exist? Why do plants even exist at all? You ready for this? This is basically our moment of Zen for tonight, guys. So pay attention. This is probably my favorite part about this.
Carbon dioxide from the air. People look at trees and they think it comes out of the ground. The plants grow out of the ground. But if you ask where the substance comes from, you find out where do they come from. The trees come out of the air. They surely come out of the air. No, they come out of the air. The carbon dioxide in the air goes into the tree and it changes it, kicking out the oxygen and pushing the oxygen away from the carbon and leaving the carbon substance with water. Water comes out of the ground, you see. Only it had to get in there. It came out of the air, didn't it? It came down from the sky. So in fact, most of a tree, almost all of the tree is out of the ground. I'm sorry, it's out of the air. There's a little bit from the ground, some minerals and so forth. Now, of course, I told you the oxygen, we know the oxygen and carbon stick together very tight. How is it the tree is so smart as to manage to take the carbon dioxide, which is the carbon and oxygen nicely combined, and undo that so easy? Life has some mysterious force. No, the sun is shining. And it's the sunlight that comes down and knocks this oxygen away from the carbon. So it takes sunlight to get the plant to work. And
so how did he just demystify it? Everybody says, hey, how does this all work? Well, the plant is just taking carbon dioxide out of the air, breaking it apart. How does it break it apart? It's not using magic. It's not using Harry Potter magic to break apart the oxygen and the carbon. It's using the light, photosynthesis. It's using light to break down the molecules. And then it uses the molecule to make the wood. Where does the wood come from? How does the tree form? Trees come from the air, not from the ground. So when people say, why is this part relevant? Why did I want to play this part? Because the topic of tonight's stream is woke disclosure. It's disclosure. They want to tell you about aliens. Bro, trees come from the air. Aliens aren't going to live on our planet. Everything about every form of life on this planet is based on the environment that we live in, including the trees that are growing on it, that exist because of the carbon dioxide in the air, the light shining upon them, and the photosynthesis process that they're doing. If aliens come here, they're going to die because they're not going to be able to live in our atmosphere because they aren't from our air. We are from our air. So let's let the man land his plane here.
The sun all the time is doing the work of separating the oxygen away from the carbon. The oxygen is some kind of terrible byproduct, which it spits back into the air and leaving the carbon and water and stuff to make the substance of the tree. Then when we take the substance of the tree and stick it in the fireplace, and there's all the oxygen made by these trees, and all the carbon would much prefer to be close together again. And once you let the heat to get it started, it continues and makes an awful lot of activity while it's going back together again. And all this nice light and everything comes out, and everything is being undone. You're going back from carbon and oxygen back to carbon dioxide. And the light and heat that's coming out, that's the light and heat of the sun that went in.
Wow, there we go. The light and the heat that's coming out when you burn it is the same energy that went in to break it apart. So the molecules, the carbon dioxide wants to come back together again. It wants to go back to its original form. Basically, all the tree did was break the carbon and the oxygen apart, use them independently, and then they want to come back together again. And when they come back together again, what do we call it? We call it fire. We call it fire, and the fire releases light that we use to heat things up and to see. How different is that than probably what you were taught or what I was taught? That's why Richard Feynman is considered a GOAT. Because Richard Feynman can explain these concepts in a way where he's like, I can sit here all day and talk about this and wonder what the next thing is. He says, I love asking myself these questions. What leads to this? What leads to that? Why does this do this? Why does this do that? That's the kind of understanding that we need to have if we want to get disclosure. Because the government's never going to give it to us. Congress is never going to give it to us. They're never going to tell us the truth about super weapons that they've developed to fight against Russia and China. The only way we're going to get disclosure is if we push for it, we educate ourselves to the point where it can no longer be denied. Thank you, MH370X. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Please like and share. Check it out. And hit us up next time, guys. S. Spears, Sentinel of the Night. Later, everybody.
infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As fears, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. Controls in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As fears, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As fears, sentinel of the night, watching